Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Fuentes, and in this video I'll be talking about the Salmonella infection outbreak that was linked to pistachio nuts across several different states. In 2016, wonderful pistachios were identified as a high contaminated product of Salmonella bacteria, which is commonly caused and found in food or water that has been contaminated with feces. Feces can be transferred from person to person, ingestion of contaminated food, or through the simple mistake of improperly cooking food. As a result to these forms of transmission, people are commonly known to experience diarrhea, fever, vomiting, or abdominal pain up to 72 hours after consumption. Along with these symptoms, a high risk of infection can include the spreading of bacteria from the intestines to the bloodstream and to other parts of the body that can cause death if not treated on time. This form of severe cases can occur among people who may not be aware of the infection or do not have resources to treat the infection, people such as the homeless, children, or elderly. Due to this outbreak, CDC and FDA officials collaborated with several other public health officials in order to perform DNA fingerprinting on Salmonella bacteria among individuals who may or may not be infected. Although this may benefit their study, a downfall to identifying the outbreak is the fact that several customers have bought recalled pistachios, which are returned items that are sold again even after discovering safety or product issues. This form of retailing allows thousands of people to be exposed to contamination as they are constantly eating or cooking meals that contain pistachios. In this case, one of the best options retailers and restaurants have is to keep the public informed of all ingredients that were used to cook the meals as well as which pistachios or nuts are being sold. It is important to keep the public aware of all foods they are purchasing and ingesting. Thankfully, out of all the people who were identified with the pistachio salmonella infection, no one was declared dead. This form of infection, in comparison to others, is not considered highly deadly nor dangerous because it can commonly resolve itself within 5 to 7 days without being treated. In the case that the infection became more severe than usual, there are treatments and antibiotics that can be prescribed to immediately treat patients long before severe dangers appear. To know whether or not you should call the doctor, one should pay attention to constant symptoms like diarrhea or vomiting. If these symptoms last more than 3 days and do not decrease in flow or continue getting worse, contact healthcare providers right away. People who have purchased recalled wonderful pistachios have been given the opportunity to return their packages for a refund as a way of decreasing the risk of people becoming infected. An alternative to returning the packages would be a mandatory disposal of all recalled wonderful pistachio produce within retail stores, companies, and restaurants. By doing so, public health officials would slowly decrease the rates of contamination rather than trying to eliminate it all at once. It is important to make interventions if there is no current solution to the problem. Along with this, there is the general alternatives that are recommended to all people, which consist of sanitation with all food and bodies to eliminate the spreading or bacteria of bacteria among others. Although this may seem like a given, it is important to continue to promote such alternatives because people can tend to ignore these steps from time to time. As stated in the slides before, one should immediately contact a health provider if they consumed any form of raw meat or food. Although people can tell most of the time when something isn't cooked, one can be surprised of several turnouts. The second recommendation would be to not eat wonderful pistachios simply because salmonella can live up to 6 months on dry surfaces without growing nor dying. There have been 89 recalls of nut butters and nuts that are potentially exposures of salmonella bacteria. It is better to stay away from them rather than become infected later on. One must consider all the other contamination factors that go into packaging. An example would be the dirty containers several packaging companies reuse to pour all pistachios into. Action plans that should be established in the near future consist of banning retailers and restaurants from selling any form of pistachio and nut produce that have been identified as contagious. Although there haven't been severe cases of pistachio salmonella infection, health officials should focus on the next move before they do become severe. Within the next 20 years, officials should focus on creating a vaccination that will help the body fight against salmonella bacteria, eliminating infections. Along with this, technology should be used to create a DNA reader that can identify contamination within food before they are distributed to retailers. Personally, I've never been informed about salmonella infections, but I can now see how easy it could have been for me to become infected by this bacteria if I was not taught to wash my food before cooking or eating it. It is very hard to keep track of all possible infected food sources based on the fact that this bacteria can remain intact for 6 months without growing, as seen on the pistachios, sneaking up on products more than people would expect. In my opinion, it is better to stay safe and informed about all food sources for the simple benefit of knowing what to expect from certain items rather than not knowing at all. Here are the sources that I used, and thank you for watching my video.